Hello and welcome to the final whistle. I'm Steve Forbes. In a rather disappointing afternoon for Southampton, who will be frustrated not to have left Molineux with at least a point, suffering a 1-0 loss at Wolves. And here to discuss the game with me, we have former Southampton captain Dean Hammond and NBC's lead soccer writer Joe Prince Wright. Dean, what did you make of the game? Because I can imagine the players will be quite frustrated after that.
I think you summed it up well there, Steve. I think there will be frustration and disappointment. I don't think Southampton deserved to lose the game. Did they deserve to win it? I'm not too sure. It was a pretty even contest. Unfortunately, Southampton got done with a sucker punch on the counter attack. Really, bit fortunate with the finish as well. I'm not sure he actually meant that, but sometimes you get that in football. But I mean, the first half before the goal, I thought Southampton put an excellent away performance in. Defensively, they looked pretty strong, quite comfortable. Were creating half chances. I wouldn't say real open opportunities, but were causing Wolves problems. And then second half, even contest, Wolves came out a little bit brighter and were causing Southampton problems by getting in behind them wide, but in behind the fullbacks because Southampton were playing a little bit higher. But then I thought the substitutions and the players that came onto the pitch made a real impact. Stuart Armstrong, I thought, was fantastic when he came on, made a real difference. Started dictating play, taking a few more chances, was taking responsibility, created some opportunities, but just couldn't get back into the game, unfortunately. And it'd be one I think that the players will look at with that disappointment, because it would have been brilliant to back up the fantastic performance and result against Chelsea with something today. So it's not a low, but it just feels a little bit disappointing because of that. It just would have been an end to a fantastic week for the players. But they put a lot of hard work in. I thought the system worked well again. There were some good individual performances, but just lacked that cutting edge today, which can be understanding because of the amount of the effort they put in against Chelsea. But that's no excuse. I think losing 1-0 today, they'd be disappointed because Wolves were there for the taking, I think. And Joe mentioned just before we came on, I think if we'd got that equaliser with 20, 30 minutes to go, there would have only been one winner in the game.
Yeah, Joe, what did you make of it? And do you think a draw would have been a fair result?
I think so, Steve. I think both teams didn't really do enough to win it, but it was so even, like Dean said. It was really a game boiled down to a couple of big chances. Wolves had that one right at the end of the first half where Podence just kind of scuffs it in, right? And it's a bit lucky for Wolves' perspective. And then Saints are very unlucky with the Ché Adams disallowed goal we're going to talk about. And that was pretty much it. Very even. Both teams were looking to counter each other. Dean mentioned it there. Saints had a lot of good play in the first half, and I think the manager will be really disappointed that they didn't go in level at half time and just kind of have a professional display. They were just a little bit too open, I think, Saints, compared to recent games, and I'm not sure if it's because of the effort levels put in midweek against Chelsea. Maybe Ralph will look at it and think I probably should have switched the team up a little bit more to keep it as fresh as possible, because he does have a lot of good options. But it's easy to sit here and say that now, right? After a defeat, but yeah, just a very even game. And I think both these teams, when they faced each other over the last few seasons, there's not much between them. And I think Wolves just got a lucky break today, and Saints were slightly unlucky, Steve. So that's football, as they say.
Dean, let's address that sucker punch you mentioned, because Southampton had arguably the better of the first half, and then Daniel Podence scores on the stroke of half time. Can you talk us through it?
Well, I think you're right. I think Southampton did have the best of the first half. I thought they pressed Wolves really, really well, countered as well, and had some energy in attack. But it came from that, Steve, where Southampton were on the counter attack and had controlled possession. And it was, I can't remember, it was a sloppy pass, an unnecessary pass into Elanusi, who kind of tried to receive it and then wrong foots himself and loses his balance. Then Wolves break from that moment, and Southampton are stretched because they're counter attacking. So Carl Walker-Peters is really, really high. Pero is high on the left hand side, and then Diallo tries to recover but doesn't stay with his midfield runner long enough. And because he doesn't do that, Salisu has to come across, and then Bella Kotcha, because Salisu comes across, Bella Kotcha has to come across, and it just leaves Podence at the back post. But he's very, very fortunate with the finish, because I think if he gets a clean contact on it, the goalkeeper saves it. But it's because he hits it into the ground, it kind of lifts over the goalkeeper. And at that point, I don't think Wolves deserved to take the lead at all. So it was from Southampton being positive. It was from Southampton trying to win the game and trying to get ahead in the game. But they just got done with a sucker punch on the counter-attack. And if you're Wolves, you need that little bit of luck sometimes when you have been unable to score goals, when you haven't taken chances. Sometimes you need that little bit of luck to win a game or to get ahead in the game. So it was unfortunate for Southampton because they were trying to be positive. And there was nothing really, no real individual errors with it. The defenders did the right things. They had to go across and try and protect the goal. But it's a good ball across the box and a lucky finish. So unfortunate for Southampton, but they responded pretty well, I thought.
Joe, as Dean just mentioned there, the fullbacks were playing quite high up, and it did look as if Wolves were trying to exploit that space in behind Kyle Walker-Peters, and it did pay off for the goal.
It did, Steve, and I think both fullbacks, Pero and Walker-Peters, obviously love to get forward, but there wasn't enough protection at times when Saints something did break down for them in the final third or in midfield, like it did for the goal, with Al-Yunusi trying to flick it around the corner and just kind of falling over, and then Wolves could break, and they did really target those areas. And I think that maybe, again, Diallo, energy levels coming in after not playing a lot, playing against Chelsea on Tuesday. And then we just kind of saw, as Dean mentioned there, he didn't track his runner the whole way. So if you're fullbacks and asked to attack the way that Ralph Hasenhüttl asks Walker-Peters and Pro or whoever's there to attack, you need those holding midfielders to cover over, to plug the gaps, especially on counter-attacking situations like that. And, Wolves, to be fair, they did it very well. They're a very good team at doing that over the years, even before the current manager was there. Their squad of players do like to play on the counter a lot. Pedro Neto nearly got in the first half on the other flank early on and nearly scored when he put it wide. So Wolves had a lot of joy in that. I think Saints will just be a bit disappointed that they left themselves that exposed, and they could just have managed the situation better, get to halftime 0-0, make a few changes, freshen things up. And it was just a bit of disappointment, really, that they left themselves that exposed.
We'll move into the second half, and there was an unbelievable moment, Dean, involving Ché Adams and a handball. I'm scratching my head to see how, he fumbled that one, but can you try and explain it?
Well, I don't think Ché will want to see that again. It's just one of those moments where, to start with, it's brilliant play from Stuart Armstrong and Aribo. It's that cute play and that clever craft around the edge of the box, which I thought Stuart Armstrong brought into the game when he came onto the pitch. He looked very, very lively. And the goalkeeper makes a mistake. And I think from that, Ché obviously thinks, this is his opportunity. He won't get an easier chance. And I think he just jumps a little bit too early. And then he just mistimes his header. There is some spin on the ball. I'm probably being a little bit too kind to Ché here, but he just mistimes his header and he tries to head it too hard. Potentially he's unaware that he's on his own and there isn't a defender with him. So he has more time than he thinks. He can actually just compose himself, probably bring it down on his chest and put it in. But in these moments, it does happen very, very quick, and it was a little bit unexpected for him. But for a player of Ché's quality and at his level, it's a miss. It's definitely a miss. There's no hiding away from that. And you could see the disappointment in his eyes. He knew it was a miss. And as he headed it, he's obviously headed it. And he's mistimed the header and he's just gone to use his arm, really, just to make sure. It was a moment in the game where if Southampton had scored that and got back into the game at 1-1, I think they could have gone on to win the game. Their confidence would have grown. They were playing a lot more in Wolves' half. They were having more possession of the ball. They were creating more opportunities. So it was a vital moment of the game, but it'd be one that Ché will be very, very disappointed in because it's an opportunity for him to get another goal for this season. And again, that's part of Ché's development. that is how he's going to get to the next level, by scoring goals like that. We know he can score spectacular goals, but it's the simple ones where maybe he just has to concentrate a little bit more, just to get those little tap-ins from 5 yards or those headers from 5 yards. So he'll be disappointed with that moment.
Yeah, it really wasn't Ché's day, Joe, because he hit the crossbar a few moments later as well. But what was lacking for Southampton in the final third?
Yeah, Steve, I think it was just a little bit of luck in those situations there. There was just a few crosses into the box that would just bounce in and then would find a Wolves defender, they'd clear it. And for me, I just thought there was a slight lack of energy when Saints got into some really promising positions, be it, again, I'm talking about it a lot, but after the midweek excursions against Chelsea, it was, Adam Armstrong, Ché Adams, Al Yunusi, the ball just didn't seem to be dropping for them, or they were overstretching or snatching at chances, and almost as if they were too eager to get on the front foot and get ahead in the game. So they weren't doing an awful lot wrong. They were getting into some very good positions. But I think obviously you've seen that the club were, by all accounts, trying to bring in a striker and a new forward option in the latter stages of the window. And this probably summed up why a game like this, where they had a lot of opportunities, as Dean mentioned, Ché would be really disappointed with that one. And sometimes it's just looking around this squad and seeing, is there that instinctive finisher like they had with Danny Ings in the past and others? I'm not sure they quite have that right now in the squad. I mean, Ché will score an incredible acrobatic goal away at Leicester, and then unfortunately something like today happens. And, the second header that hit the bar, that was a much more difficult chance for him, and he almost pulled it off. So, yeah, just a lot of frustration, Steve. And as I said, a little bit of lack of energy, but that did change when a lot of the players came off the bench in the second half. And there was a lot of really impressive performances going forward, I think, from some of the guys who come off the bench. So Ralph has options to mix it up.
Yeah, let's talk about those substitutions, because some of the fans commenting are highlighting the impact that Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Sam Edozie made when they come on. Dean, we saw glimpses of what they could offer Saints. It's good for them to get some early minutes under their belt, and Edozie had some bright spells and some good touches as well.
Yeah, fantastic for them to get those first minutes for the football club. And Edozie came on and he was exceptional. For such a young man, he looked quick. He looked direct, which is different. We don't necessarily have that type of player. Very, very direct. Like to take players on in one-on-one situations. There was a moment where he received the ball right on the touchline, and he sucked Johnny in, went past him, then went past Neves, I think, as well. So it looked really, really bright. There was another moment in the corner where he skipped past the defender on the byline and then tried to put a cross into the box. And unfortunately, there was no one within the box of any Southampton players. So he looked really, really bright, and a type of player, like I mentioned, that Southampton don't necessarily have. Someone with raw pace. He looked very, very quick, slight, long legs, but quick, and looked like he could commit players and go around them. So that will be a positive for the manager today, that he's seen that live. He's seen that in the Premier League, because it's one thing seeing it in training, but it's different doing it on a match day against Premier League players in front of thousands of people. And he looked very, very comfortable in doing what he did. So a good start for him. And I'm sure the more and more minutes he gets, the more and more appearances he gets, the more trust he earns from the manager. We'll see more and more through his ability.
We saw Southampton make 5 substitutions this afternoon, Joe, and although they couldn't create an equaliser, I suppose it does highlight the depth of the squad and the options that Ralph has to try and make a difference.
It does, Steve, and I think, Edozie was excellent when he came on. It reminded me of not trying to put too much pressure on him, but almost Robert Perez-like, the way he was just ghosting past players and just, wonderful, wonderful poise about him, and looks a real talent. But yeah, the depth is good. As I said at the top, I think in hindsight, Ralph will probably think he should have made a few more changes from Tuesday. Maybe started Moussa Djenepo at left back there. Maybe have started Stuart Armstrong as well. He was excellent when he came on, and just mixed the team up a little bit more. But it is difficult because Saints played so well on Tuesday, were flying, and obviously full of confidence. But this season, I think we're going to see a lot of changes. The back four, for the most part, looks pretty solid in that partnership with Balakotchap and Salas, who they were excellent once again today. Couldn't really fault them for the goal, and I thought they pretty much held firm back there. But in attack and midfield, there's a lot of options there, Steve. And I just wonder sometimes if that will almost create a little bit more of a problem for Ralph to try and find the right combinations at times. And it's early in the season. There's a lot of new players coming in, 10 new signings this summer. So they're still finding their feet a little bit. But the squad looks very exciting. Dean mentioned it there. The guys coming off the bench had a huge, huge impact. That's what you want from your substitutes. And I can see a scenario where Ralph is just going to start making 2 or 3 changes at half time just to give the players all of the minutes that they deserve, because there are a lot of players on a very similar level and similar confidence as well. When they get on the pitch, they're making things happen. So wasn't the B today, whatever player was on the pitch, but I think going forward, this squad, I'm very, very happy with it as a Southampton fan.
Right, just before we look at our next fixture, we'll get a few comments from fans watching at home and around the world. Jack on Twitter has said, we didn't deserve to lose. With Lavia out, Ainsley Maitland-Niles walks into this team and he's looking forward to next week. Also, a couple of people saying that we didn't deserve to lose that game. Jason Stratford said, not a bad performance at all. Lots of promise for the future for sure. Just unlucky with Ché's handball. Following, as always, from Canada. Thank you much, Jason. And then David Harfield says, that Adozie looks a right handful, going to terrify a few defences this season, I reckon. Great stuff. Thank you for all your comments today. Right, so next up it is Brentford at home. Dean, they beat Leeds 5-2 this afternoon. How do you think Saints will approach that one?
Well, it'll be another test. There's no easy games, like you say, in the Premier League, and Brentford has started very, very well, and they're scoring a lot of goals as well. So they look like a force this year. Picked up some valuable points. They've had a very good start to the season. But if Southampton can repeat what they did against Manchester United, repeat what they did against Chelsea at home, then I'd have every confidence in the players to respond to the defeat today, to react to the defeat today, and put another stellar performance in. Like Joe said, there's lots of options. The manager's now going to have a week to work with the players and implement continue to repeat the ideas that he's brought this season. Introduce the new players into the squad. They can have a week of training as well. So it's really positive for Southampton this season. I'm looking forward to this season. This is a game that I'm sure that the players will be confident of winning and continue that fine form and fine performances they've set at home this season.
Yeah, that win today for Brentford puts them up to 7th in the table, Joe. But there is only their second win of the season, although it is early days. So Southampton will still be confident going into this game.
Yeah, obviously Brentford, very attacking team, as Dee mentioned there. I mean, they scored 15 goals already this season, but they have let in 9. So can guarantee goals next week, Steve. It's definitely not going to be a 0-0. Now I've said that, not try to tempt fate. But I think Brentford, away from home, they have yet to win yet. Maybe there's something in that. At home, they're tough to play. Ivan Toney scoring a hat-trick today against Leeds. I mean, they're going to have to watch him very, very closely. But I fancy Salisu and Bella Kotchap to really be well suited, I think, to stop him and Brian and Mbeumo up top. It's going to be difficult, though. I think for Saints, you look at the stats from today's game, only 1 shot on target. I think that's probably the most disappointing thing, that they got in some really promising positions, but just couldn't really work Jose Sarr in goal. So I think coming out with a more positive attitude, like Dean said, they got a whole week now to fine-tune things. I honestly don't know what the starting lineup's going to be, especially in the attacking third of the pitch. I think Ché Adams starts, but then underneath him, there's a whole plethora of options there for Ralph to work on and get the combinations sorted. So, yeah, it should be a really good, open, attacking, entertaining game. And I like Thomas Frank. I like Brentford. I think they're many people's sort of favourite second team, aren't they, in their second season back in the Premier League. So they like to entertain. So do Saints. And so hopefully we'll see a really good game at St Mary's.
Yeah, I hope we do, Joe. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and you as well, Dean. We'll speak to you both very soon. As we've said, a bit of a disappointing afternoon for Southampton, losing 1-0 away to Wolves, but there were glimpses of some potential future stars for the Saints as well. Next up, it is Brentford at home on Saturday the 10th. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff for that one, so we'll be back with another Saints Live from 1:45. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you then.